This week on the Racing Insiders, we talk with Core Autosport factory Porsche driver Patrick Long. Talk about his test at Mobil 1 and some of the technology that Porsche is applying to their racing programs. We speak with Robert Thorne, Pirelli World Challenge, past United States Touring Car Champion, coming into GT as a young rookie with a powerhouse team and a powerhouse car. We'll also go to Australia. The first round of the 2014 season for the V8 Supercars took place at Adelaide. We got highlights from Australia. And are you kidding me? What's going on in our heads? All next on the Racing Insiders. Welcome to the Racing Insiders, the only show in broadcasting where you're going to get sports car content every week. I'm Jeff Lepper in Folsom, California. We have Peter Keane in Cocoa Beach, Florida, and we're joined now by factory Porsche driver Patrick Long from Plata del Rey, California. Patrick, a lot of great things for you driving with Porsche, being one of the few American factory drivers, the only one currently that I know of. A lot of testing going on for Sebring coming up for the Mobil 1, 12 hours of Sebring. You guys tested last week. How did your test go?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. The test went really well. The winter test is a great time to get everybody down to Sebring and get all the different manufacturers together, and we ended up coming out on top with the new RSR. So all things are great. We really have to just keep pushing on reliability and speed, because you don't really know where things pan out in testing until you get to qualifying, and then halfway into that 12-hour race do we see where things are going to pan out.
Now you talk about testing and reliability. A couple years ago you got to run that Porsche hybrid car, and we've had the announcement of the new LMP1 Porsche that's going to be a gasoline hybrid. Any technology from that older car is being transferred to this new vehicle, or is it a brand new clean slate for Porsche?
No, I think there'll be a lot of transition of technology. Our whole hybrid team from the motorsport side was sort of put onto that program to develop the LMP1. It's different technology. If you remember with the GT3R, we had flywheel technology. So we basically had like the KERS software, and then we were using a flywheel to store the energy rather than a battery. Now with the LMP1 and the regulations, the way things are, it's a battery that's storing the energy. So the idea of charging in deceleration is still the same, but certainly different regulations and a different strategy on how we store that energy. But all in all, it was a great experience to get those guys into a racing scenario. It gives them a real leg up trying to get up to speed quickly against Audi, who has a lot of experience with the hybrid already.
Well, Patrick, I'd just like to go back to the testing at Sebring. I mean, you guys were very fast at Daytona, and then again at Sebring you were on top in the RSR. I guess nobody's surprised by that with the speed that Porsche had at the 2013 Le Mans. I got a good buddy, Antonio Garcia, and I know what a great job he does and Corvette racing. But you guys have kind of been the class of the field for 2014 in GTLM.
Yeah, it's a great start, but it's a long season. The tracks as we get into the summer are going to be all different types of stuff, from street courses to traditional road courses, and aerodynamics is going to be a big play. We know that the vets are strong there. SRT Viper's been really at the top of their game, so we love the opportunity to battle against these guys. It's the first time for us in a factory scenario in North America with the GT program. In 06 to 08, I was able to be in the program with Penske with the RS Spider, but this is the first time that we feel we're fighting on equal footing with some of the other manufacturers who have had that funding and had that group together. But we still have our work cut out for us. Core's been a great partner. We're getting up to speed in strategy, pit stops, things where maybe some of the other competitors have a bit more of a well-oiled machine. But Vet has a new car. This is a new car for us. We started last year in the WEC, but it's never run on American tracks. So working closely with Michelin to get a real good relationship between the tire and the car, and then we're going to have to get into the real long battle of this whole season, which is going to be a ton of races, a lot of attrition, and always action-packed. So we want to come out with a manufacturers and a drivers championship, and that's going to be about being consistent. I think it's easy to talk about speed in the off-season, but when we get into this, it's going to be a knockdown brawl.
Well, and I think that was my second question, honestly, is that, I mean, I'm part of Spirit of Daytona, but the grind starts at Sebring. I mean, after that, I think we go every 2 weeks. And, I mean, I know from the Sebring test, you guys have a huge team and a big organization, so you definitely got the staff to take on that challenge. But it is going to be a grind once we get going. I think it's every other week that we race. And so do you think that the Corvette might have an advantage at the shorter tracks, or even maybe the Viper? I know the Viper showed speed as well at Daytona and other places.
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I mean, obviously, you know, SRT has had their car for a little longer than Vet or ourselves. We know BMW is good at playing the game, so they'll be there when it counts. It's really going to be up between, you know, 8 or 9 cars that anybody could take the victory week in and week out. I think you'll see a very big difference in the way the cars pan out. At Daytona, obviously, a lot of speed is made on the banking, so everybody's running pretty trimmed out, low aerodynamics, looking for top speed. Now we go to Sebring. It's really about bumps. It's about tire wear, and of course, you know, battling as a team through all the different adversity that race throws you. But on to Long Beach and then to Laguna, tighter tracks, more action in the traffic. You got to be really keep your car clean until the end. But I think those tracks are where some of the cars that are stronger on aero and maybe don't make as much power will really factor in more. So Sebring's a great transition from Daytona, which is as unconventional as they get setup-wise. And once we get into some of these more traditional tracks, you're going to see every single week a new player up front.
Now, we talked about the different changes in balance of performance that the IMSA series is doing. How do you feel the balance of performance is in the series right now, especially in the GT categories?
Yeah, balance of performance is a part of modern racing outside of Formula One. It's really about creating a show and making the racing tight, but that does add a little bit of variable of gamesmanship. And I think back to the days of reading Mark Donohue's book, The Unfair Advantage, it's always about playing your cards when you have to. And I don't think that any manufacturer will tell you that they show every single ounce of speed at every single session they're on the track. But in the end, I'm a racer, and I can't argue with how the GTLM class structure, even in the outgoing ALMS category, it's been such close racing, different champions every year, different winners week in and week out. So rather than question what they're doing on the balance of performance, I just trust that this is the best and closest GT racing in the world right here in North America. So we're just going to keep our heads down and do our job, get everything out of what we have, and let the rule makers do their thing.
Well, we'll cover it a little bit later in the show, but V8 Supercars opened their round at Adelaide here this year for the 2014 season. Patrick, you got a chance to drive those V8 Supercars. Will you see you in those cars again?
I don't know. I hope so. The format's changed a little bit. The first 2 times that I went down there to run at the Gold Coast, it was part of their international movement, which was to link a guy from outside of V8 Supercars up with a regular and go for a full points-paying endurance race on the streets in Surfer's Paradise. Now they've changed it to make it a regular enduro round. So that means Sandown, Bathurst, and Gold Coast are their enduro rounds. They usually sign 1 driver to be for all 3 of those races. So we'll see if the schedule works out. Porsche's keeping me pretty busy this year. But I was just down there recently for the 12 hours of Bathurst, and I reconnected with some of my old teammates and teams that run in the V8 Supercars, and always see the drivers in transit at Le Mans, and you know, Craig Lowndes comes over, and it's great to see Bright and Lowndes and some of these guys making a transition to endurance racing in the same way that the endurance guys like Ollie Gavin, who just recently signed for HRT, are going to go over and do the enduro round. So I keep in touch with Gary Rogers Motorsport. They had a great opening weekend with their Volvo, so you never know.
Well, we certainly wish you luck there, Patrick, in your endeavor to try to win the 12 hours of Sebring here this year. Thank you so much for joining us on the Racing Insiders. We appreciate having you.
Thanks, guys. Hope to see you down there. We're making a big announcement this week with a new sponsorship package, so we're really excited to bring a new livery down to Sebring.
We're joined by Robert Thorne in Denver, Colorado. Robert, big announcement coming your way, not only from K-Pax Racing running a new car, but you stepping up to the GT category, running in touring car in this Volvo C30 into a new car now, the McLaren MP4-12C. Tell us how that program came about and how you're getting to drive this great car.
Well, it's a bit of a long story. It's been a very long winter for us. Getting back involved with K-Pax, obviously, Jeff, you remember from 2012 when they asked me to come out and run their C30 during one of the World Challenge events. Since then, I've still been slowly involved, and things this past winter picked up when they asked me to come out since I was local to help them continue testing the S60s, the Volvos. And after a couple of successful tests, and me and the engineers hit it off really well, and they put forth the idea of having me on board for the following season. So the McLaren side of it and me coming on ended up completely two separate deals that really came together at the end after K-Pax decided that it was time to move on from the Volvo and into the McLaren. And at that point, I was quite certain that I would have one of the seats in whatever we were going to run. And that's really how it happened.
Now, stepping into the GT category in Pirelli World Challenge, obviously you started autocrossing your Honda S2000, multinational championship there. Going into road racing, you have a touring car victory, you have a championship with the US touring car. Now you're stepping into a GT category with this whole new GT3 homologation rules in the Pirelli World Challenge. What are some of the things and realistic goals you're looking at this year?
Well, it's funny you say that. We've had a lot of talk lately around the shop, and having the owner, Jim Huey, come in recently to talk about how far we're looking to get in this first season. And there's some mixed thoughts on goals there. I would like to have, obviously, a very successful season and you know, get a win on the board, get running up front, see if we can get these new cars up to speed. You know, though they're a spec FIA car, a lot of things to factor in. So realistically, if we can get the cars up to pace and run the top three, I mean, we'll be all pretty ecstatic with that.
So I guess, I mean, I know the history of K-Pax. I know they've been very successful with the Pirelli World Challenge over the years. But I gotta say, my one comment is they always go off tradition. They don't pick a traditional car or platform to go with. You know, first with the S60s and now with the McLaren. I mean, is that just something from the owner's standpoint that he wants to do something different, or they like to make things hard, or like they like to break new ground? Just speak about the team a little bit.
Well, I guess that's a bit of why I strive toward them. Coming from the autocross side, I enjoy picking a car that's not supposed to be competitive in a certain situation and making it competitive, from the S2000 and the whole argument of it not being able to keep up with the four-wheel drive cars and this past year and finally being able to outpace them. It's just liking the challenge, and I feel they're really the same way. They really like a challenge. We all knew that, you know, perhaps we could go back to a Porsche and take a very traditional standpoint and go at the championship that way and probably be able to win, or at least be very successful. But the owner and everyone there likes doing things different.
Well, and I think that was part of the, you know, I don't want to say the rumor, but the speculation was they'd kind of go back to the roots and go to a Porsche or maybe a Viper. But I mean, I agree that I think this McLaren's a great addition to the Pirelli World Challenge, but it was just kind of it's a shocking announcement. How's that from a racing insider?
We were hoping it would be a shocking announcement. We all knew for a while, and really enjoyed listening to all the rumors that were built up around the idea, and a lot of them were accurate. We were thinking about Porsches. We were looking into the Audi and a couple other platforms in the Viper, but you know, when the McLaren option came up, it was just so appealing, knowing that no one was going to try to do that, and we like that idea.
Well, of course, you'll be joined by longtime K-Pax racer and teammate Alex Figge as you try to compete and win in the Pirelli World Challenge, the GT category. Watch for those McLaren MP4-12Cs. 22 days, I think, till St. Pete coming up, and I'll be there calling all the action, and look forward to talking about Robert Thorne and Alex Figge and their K-Pax Racing McLarens up on the podium. Thank you so much for joining us, Robert. We really appreciate it, and good luck to you this year.
Thank you. It's good hearing from you.
Next on the Racing Insiders, we'll talk V8 Supercars. They're opening 3 rounds from Adelaide.
This segment of the Racing Insiders was brought to you by Go Pro, Be a Hero. Want to keep up with all the racing action at the track? Well, download the new Go Racing TV iPhone and Android app. And remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
to the Racing Insiders. I'm Jeff Lepper with Peter Keane. We're going to go right all the way across the other side of the world to Australia, the opening round of the 2014 V8 Supercars Series. A different format this race weekend where 3 races, 2 back-to-back 1-hour sprint races followed by a 2-hour enduro. They go by 500 kilometers there in Adelaide, but great action. In race number 1, it was Jamie Whincup, that Red Bull Holden team, dominating with Craig Lowndes finishing in 2nd, Shane Van Gisbergen in 3rd. Race 2, that was the highlight of the whole weekend. The battle for 2nd place was going on between the brand new Volvo S60 from Scott McLaughlin versus 5-time champion Jamie Whincup. They were battling back and forth on that final lap. It was an epic battle. Craig Lowndes, he ran away with it. He got the win. No big deal there, but everybody's going to be talking about probably the highlight of the year between that Volvo, brand new in the series, its first podium, and Jamie Whincup there at the end. Sunday's race, that went to James Courtney and his Holden Commodore taking the win in that race. Kind of a snoozer there till right at the end when Jason Bright on a restart goes 3 wide into the tight chicane, rolls the car a couple of times up onto the tire barrier, completely destroys the car, but it really shows you the new safety of this car of tomorrow, as they call it, for the V8 Supercars. Now, Peter, the back-to-back format races of an hour long each race, that's got to be trying on the crews. I know with Spirit of Daytona, you guys, do that much work to have a back-to-back 1-hour race on a street circuit. It's got to be tiresome.
Well, first, you're exactly right, Jeff. First of all, I got to say that I guess it doesn't matter what continent you are on, but if you're street racing, you're tearing up some equipment. So it was a pretty good show they had down there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, as a team aspect, for the back-to-back sprint races, that's all about preparation. You need to have every part and piece ready to go on the car. It's been on the alignment rack. You've had it on the scale pads. It's ready to go. So if you tear something up, you got to change it quickly and be ready to go. And then also to go to the, then the next day for Sunday, you got to go out there and do your pit stops. You had pit stop strategy, and that's like Jamie Whincup makes a mistake, gets a pit lane violation on race 3 on Sunday, goes to the back, and then he's driving his way through, probably overdriving, makes a mistake again, and ends up getting into the fence and finishing 15th. So, I mean, even the best drivers in the world can have trouble. I do got to make a call out to Volvo. They did one heck of a job to finish 2nd on that 2nd race on Saturday. They definitely are out of the box quicker than Nissan or Mercedes, so that says a lot for their new effort at the Volvo S60 and the V8 Supercars.
Well, Will Davidson moving to that Erebus Mercedes team, you mentioned that, had a pretty reasonable debut. I know that team's looking for a lot more with the success that they've had in international sports car racing, but from a fan point, I'm a huge fan of the V8 Supercars. What's your opinion on this back-to-back format, watching it from a fan perspective?
Well, I mean, I really like it, but it does put pressure on the teams, and it puts pressure on drivers in that first round not to make a mistake, and especially on a street course, and tear something up. You got to be a little bit more careful. You can't be all out and run real hard in that first race so that you don't make a mistake and completely take yourself out of that second round. But it's exciting for the fans, and I mean, it's probably heartbreaking for the teams. I don't know. It's a lot of pressure there.
Well, you speak about the fans, over 250,000 people there for the 3 days of competition at Adelaide. On the Saturday race, 86,000 ticket holders for that race. Definitely that is probably the most popular spectator sport in all of Australia there, and it's a wish that we could get those guys back in America. It was a great round at Circuit of the Americas. They race 2 weeks from now in Melbourne, Australia. Street race there, the opening round of the Formula One as well. Opening 2 street races, that's got to be tiring on the race teams as well, Peter.
Exactly. Just keep that, have all the spares stacked up because you're going to need them.
Well, congratulations once again to Craig Lowndes, Jamie Whincup, and James Courtney, your 3 winners for the first round of the V8 Supercars 2014 season. You'll see every round right here on the Racing Insiders.
Are you kidding me?
One of our favorite segments, Are You Kidding Me? What's going on in our minds? Peter, what do you got?
Well, seeing how Bill's not here, I'm going to go off the reservation and talk a little NASCAR. That's right, the Sprint Cup Series. One more time they've copied sports car racing. Last year or 2 years ago they went with the wave around, letting you stay out and get around the caution car and come around and get your lap back. And then this year at the race at Phoenix, they have the whole new qualifying procedure now that it's a 30-minute time qualifying. This ought to get interesting. These guys had no idea what to do at Phoenix, but they're going to end up crashing cars and tearing stuff up, and it should be a good show. The one thing I don't like that NASCAR hasn't gotten right yet is that when they throw a red flag, then they stop the 30 minutes. They need to keep that 30-minute clock running, and that puts a lot of pressure on guys. We've had a lot of old Grand Am races where cars crashed early, and then guys didn't even get a lap, and that's the way we racked them up and started them. So NASCAR, are you kidding me? Taking another page from sports car.
There's got to be something about this sports car racing. Well, for me, you mentioned it before, Bill Wood being gone. Are you kidding me? He takes a little mini vacation, and me and Peter have to anchor the show for the Racing Insiders. Come on back, Bill. Hopefully we'll see you here back next week. Enjoy your vacation, because it's work time again on the Racing Insiders next week. That's my Are You Kidding Me? This week on the racing calendar, WRC in Mexico, the only North American stop that the rally cars make. I'm looking forward to watching that, as well as teams, their final preparations for the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring taking place next weekend. Peter, what are you doing this week?
Well, I'm off on a jet plane to Charlotte, North Carolina for the SCCA National Convention. I mean, the race season starts after this weekend. It's full tilt, you know. Charlotte this weekend, Sebring next. The racing season's full swing now.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get my racing season started. Still working on the Bulletproof Energy Mustang. Got a nice gash on my forehead from that car. It's amazing what has to go into building a car. I can only stand what you guys got to do at Spirit of Daytona Racing. I'm learning that here on our Mustang. So kind of be a busy week for me as we get ready to get our club car going before the pro racing starts. Well, thank you for joining us this week on the Racing Insiders. For Bill Wood, who's on vacation, I'm Jeff Lepper, Peter Keane in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you again next week on the Racing Insiders, where you'll get sports car content each and every week. Take care, respect each other, and in Bill Wood's famous words, peace.